Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it is our favorite time of the week, taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. All right, first up we have a new zero tolerance, a refreshed zero tolerance. This is a factory special series knife, which is to say these are only going to be available for a limited time, essentially. This is, of course, the 22. This is the ZT22 CU. CU, of course, for copper. We've got a copper front scale here on, well, not even a front scale, copper front slab with, of course, the titanium frame lock on the back. The copper is tumbled on the edges, and then the front surface is sanded to a satin finish. Nice little contrast there. Still got the same blade, 1.8 inches of 20 CV. Nice little upswept profile, very acute tip on that bad boy. And of course, it is a tiny flipper. Careful how you hold this one. Make sure you're not in front of the blade when you flip it, but then it flips open quite easily and pulls off one of those neat tricks of being a small knife that still somehow manages to allow you to have a pretty secure grip on it thanks to the broad finger grooves there and just enough width or height to the profile that you get really a kind of a 2.5 finger grip, but enough to grab onto for that aforementioned security. Really cool. $232 for these right now while supplies last, of course. Next up we have another refreshed knife. Kind of a relaunch of the Ferrum Forge Gent, now at a lower price point than some of the more premium versions out there, coming in at $75 for this Gent 2.0. Blade, 3-inch drop point. It's got that kind of do everything style to it with its high flat grind. We've got a 9CR series stainless steel here for pretty decent edge retention and kind of that tumbled finish as well. Moving back to the handle, you've got kind of a tapering design towards the back. Not too much flare going on there. Just enough, kind of a basic, effective handle. 3.5 finger grip for me, but my hands are slightly larger than average, so your mileage, of course, may vary. A couple different colors of G10 available right now. Green, black, and was it Coyote Tan? I can't remember now.
I don't know, you got the screen.
Gray. Gray was the third option. Deep carry pocket clip, right side only, and it's got one of the pass-through, or the single screw pass-through there, but it's pocketed, so even though it just has that single screw, it still is very, very stable because the pocket is very precise that it's milled into. Now, even though this may not be as fancy as some other Gent knives or versions of the Gent out there in the past, it still has a slim, classy, and offensive appearance while still giving you that very effective blade. Liner lock holds it open. We've got ceramic ball bearings in the pivot and excellent flipping action to go along with it. Very nice feeling knife overall. Next up, we've got an automatic, an upgraded version of the Benchmade Fact, which Facts, remember, was a manual knife before, but this upgraded version, in addition to having lots of upgrades in the materials department, also gets that automatic treatment. Price is upgraded as well, $360 for this version. The blade, 4 inches long, S90V blade steel. So you got a ton of edge retention right there and a lot of it to hold that edge. So you should be cutting for a good long time with this particular knife. The handle itself is aluminum with integral bolsters and carbon fiber inlays. We've got a deep carry pocket clip, which is reversible, making this knife, along with its other mechanisms, completely ambidextrous. You've got your safety switch here at the back, which will work to basically block out that axis lock bar from moving at all. So it will work in this open position. Not that an axis lock is likely to come loose under use, but you've got an extra degree of peace of mind there if you want it. But also, it works in the closed position if you're worried about an automatic getting tripped while in your pocket. More peace of mind right there. Spine mounted, so it's ambidextrous, and then of course the axis lock bar itself is ambidextrous. Simply pull back on that bar and the blade goes wee on its path out. That was really awkward, but We'll probably wind up leaving that in. The blade goes wee, ladies and gentlemen. It feels really good. Nice, fast action. It's kind of a gentleman's tactical knife in a way. What do you folks think out there? Certainly going to work quite well. You've got Benchmade's warranty and their Life Sharp service as well. So if anything ever goes wrong with it, or if it just needs an edge touch up, you can send it back in too. Next up, we have, like the polar opposite of an automatic, we've got a slip joint. We have the D-Rocket Mid-Tech Serpentine right here. This knife comes in at $185 for the standard titanium version, but you could step up to carbon fiber for the same price, or a zirconium handled version with Damascus blades for $400. This one actually has blades as well, even though right here you can just see two main implements. We do have a Wharncliffe blade right there, M390. Interesting grind going on. It's almost a chisel grind, but not quite. One side is completely unground, while the opposite side has a full height flat grind going on. Now, if that was sharpened just from this one side, that would be a true chisel grind, but we actually have a secondary bevel on that back side as well. So you'd be able to sharpen this conventionally with both sides like you would any normal knife, but by grinding it this way, it's basically how they get the things to fit together without having to bend blades or anything, which old school slip joints would have to contend with when you're dealing with a single layer on that back spring, like we are on this particular tool. Now on the opposite side, we have your bottle opener with a little bit of extra functionality in the pry tip slash flathead screwdriver. Now they made this tool out of M390, just like they did the main blade, which is kind of funny to think about because you don't need this thing to hold an edge right here. But I guess the reason to do something like that is they could get the tumbled finish to match more perfectly than if they were using a different steel over there. So, I'll give it to you this time, D-Rocket. But if you get bored of that extra tool and you would rather have an extra Wharncliffe blade, check it out. This knife is disassemblable, and included with the package, you've got another tiny Wharncliffe right there. I mean, that's like barely over an inch on that particular blade, but you get a very precise little cutter, detail knife, craft knife perhaps, and then you've got the bigger Wharncliffe. Comes in about we'll say about a 2 1/4 inch blade if you need some bigger cuts. All right, next up we have a lot of new Bokers this week. A lot of new Bestechs later too, so it's the week of the bees this week. First up is the Voodoo fixed blade. It's a Peter Fagan design, which you might recognize because this pattern, milling and machining pattern, I should say, on the handle itself is very similar to the Tango bar from Boker, which is of course the same guy designing it. This particular knife, just over $71. You've got 440C construction, stonewashed finish, and double-edged, true double-edged dagger in this case. No kind of finger protection, leaning forward to keep you from sliding onto those edges, but you do have the karambit-inspired ring on the back, which should help in that regard, whether in a forward grip or, of course, a reverse grip if you're using it that way. The blade length itself is about 3.3 inches, so totals up, you've got almost 6.5 inches or just over 6.5 inches of sharpened edge to work with. Should be plenty there to cut what you need to cut before you need to sharpen again. All of the edges are chamfered to keep things from biting you while you're using it. Overall, just feels super solid. Sheath comes with a Kydex number right here. The nice thing about it is it's going to be completely flippable from one side to the next. Since this is a symmetrical blade profile, the knife will fit in either way. Comes with a kind of a J-style Boker attachment, but you can also use a standard tech lock with this sheath as well. Next up, we have got the Boker Plus Aluma, a Aaron Menasherov design. And this is one of those things where Boker Plus always seems to be able to carve out a really nice spot for themselves. Price on this is about $108, and it feels like a much more expensive knife. You're gonna see a little bit of a kind of a halfway stop in terms of the materials to hit that price point, but day-to-day use, just actually experiencing this knife, truly feels high-end. And that compromise I'm talking about is mainly in the blade steel. You've got D2 here, 3.6 inches of it, very cool drop point shape, high flat grind, some nice milling into these pockets right here, which actually create a thumb opener for you. Folds up, we've got aluminum for the handles, we've got wood inlays on both sides, nice faceting and machining on those aluminum handles, milled clip there on the back. I mean, just how high-end does this knife look for that kind of money? You can flip it open with that subtle flipper tab at the back, works nicely. You can even do stuff like the middle finger flick if you don't flub it like I just did, or you can do just a standard thumb open with that facet right there. Really nice details, inset liner lock, not too heavy thanks to the aluminum construction there. I mean, this whole knife, 4.3 ounces thereabouts. Not bad for this amount of steel. Hardworking for sure, despite its heavy its fancy looks. Front end of the flipper tab here, you've got chamfered edges there, so you can actually choke up a little bit onto that if you like, get a more detail-oriented grip. I'm honestly really impressed with this knife. You know, the reason for that is it's a lot harder. Well, take this next knife as an example. Boker Plus 2022 collection edition Jens Anso knife, $428. It's very easy to make a knife that's very impressive at this kind of price point. It's harder to do it when you're dealing with 1/4 the budget like on this previous knife. But enough about that knife. Let's talk about this Anso. It is very impressive. 3.5 inch blade, M390, very graceful shape throughout the blade into the handle. Feels great, looks great. The M390, you're gonna hold an edge a good long time. You've got a little bit of thickness there, so you've got a little more toughness in that given steel. High flat grind is still gonna slice fairly okay. Probably more than fairly okay, if I'm honest. Titanium handles, contoured, feel awesome. The inlays is a fat copper carbon inlay. I said inlays at first, but there is none on the back. Very cool. You've got other copper accents along the pivot ring, the hardware, the back spacer, which already has a little hint of purple going on as well. Just very, very cool. Feels great in the hand too. It just doesn't just look good. Fold the knife up, flip it open, do that over and over again. Annoy your significant other, but at least you'll be having a good time. Next up, we've got one of my favorite knives from last year with a new handle option. This is the Daily Knives AK1 fixed blade. Comes in about $287 for this version with grenadille wood handles. I'm actually not familiar with that particular species, but it's got an almost ebony-like look to it. You've still got both blade shapes. You've got this modified sheep's foot as well as a drop point profile. You've got enough handle for pretty much a full grip right there, even for slightly larger than average hands like myself. But if you need a little bit more, you do have the lanyard loop there at the back if you want to attach a fob or a bead to give yourself a little extra grip. Or the other cool thing about this, you can actually remove or flip around that lanyard loop to give it a cleaner profile. Just go by your preferences. Either one will work quite well. This is a German-made Boker. This is not a Far Eastern imported knife. Fit and finish is excellent, and one of the reasons it's one of my favorites from last year is it's just a nice design, but it's also a pocket fixed blade, which is a genre near and dear to my heart. You got a nice, high quality, thick leather sheath right there and an ulti clip there on the outside. So you can fix it in place in your pocket. Makes it very easy to grab and go with your daily carry fixed blade. All right, next up, another wood handled Boker, another 2022 limited edition knife. This is of course the Boxer. Another one of my favorite designs of theirs. Bog oak for the handles right here. Really cool material, recovered and petrified from ancient times essentially. And it always looks really good with copper hardware, such as you see here. Not just on the front, but also the liners too. Blade itself is about 3 1/8 of an inch long. You've got a Chad Nichols Damascus for this steel. Nice clip point shape. Very striking handles to go with that very striking blade shape, but it still fits in the hand quite nicely. Great utilitarian design that also happens to look fantastic. And for this version right here, this limited edition, you're gonna be paying about $415 right now. All right, we're gonna keep the fancy wood-handled knife theme going for the next few. I've got 3 Maserins to take a look at now. The first, this is the 398 KT. Very fancy looking guy, as you can tell, 165 right now. The handles are ebony, and like I mentioned before, you can kind of see the similarities, different levels of finish. This Boker is a little more high polished, but similar tones going on. 24 karat gold engraving on the blade. That's not just purely decorative stuff. Well, it is purely decorative stuff, but they didn't skimp on the materials for that fancy inlay. We've got a liner lock on this knife. You can see some nice little milled detailing or a filework type of detailing on that. You can see some filework detailing on the back space or the back spring as well. Nice little extra touch of class there too. Now there's no pocket clip or any kind of pocket slip or anything included with this knife, so it's going to be a bit more of an old school type of pocket carry. It kind of carries through to the action as well. This is not a particularly kind of friction-free opening. You're not going to be able to really flick these well, as you can see. This particular liner lock here actually rides a bit on that back spring, like we saw there. So it's got a more almost slip joint style opening to it, even though you have the thumb stud. You got a nice inlaid thumb stud on this version too. But it's still super classy. The blade length here, about 3 3/8, N690 steel, nice tapering profile, very elegant. Gonna work great as a letter opener or a steak knife, or just a nice display piece or show off piece when you need to open a box. Next is the 392 KT. I actually had a version of this knife back in the day with the silver twill handles, which are about 90 bucks these days. But this particular knife in this 24 karat engolded version comes in about 165.
Goldified?
Keep your mouth shut over there.
Can't.
It's true. I really like this profile. It's a very distinct, got a 3-inch kind of modified Warncliffe blade shape, high flat grind here. N690 on this one as well with that 24 karat gold, and of course the ebony handles, which have a nice character line here in the center due to the way they milled that wood. Feels quite comfortable as well. Liner lock, same kind of deliberate opening action, even though you don't have the full length back spacer like you do on the previous knife. You can open it one of 2 ways. You've got single-sided thumb stud. You've also got a front flipper tab, but don't call it a front flipper tab because you're not going to be flipping this. It's more of the old school like Higo no Kami slow roll opening due to the tension at the pivot right there. Not free floating, but very, very smooth in its operation. Very classy feeling knife overall. Really dig that. And last but not least, we have the 384 KT GTO, 165 for this knife. 24 karat gold, just like we've been talking about. N690 for the blade steel, but a 3 3/4 inch blade. Kind of a slightly more tactical inspired blade right here. The back spacer here, actually I believe it's G10, but it manages to blend in really nicely with these ebony handle scales. Yeah, you almost never even notice it unless you look closely. You see it's a little bit more uniform than a natural material would be. Feel in the hand, despite the heavy scalloping, is really good. Quite comfortable. You've got that forward finger groove that helps you kind of lock into place very easily. Liner lock here as well. Same kind of file work we saw on the first special edition Maserin, and same kind of slow opening, but we do have a slight fuller milled in. We'll call it a fuller. It's not quite accurate in this case, but slight milled section on each side, a little further down the blade to help you do your one-hand opening there. And so this one's a little more free-floating. Let's see if I can botch this middle finger flip. Did better than some, gotta say. But really cool looking knives. And of course, if you like these profiles, but you don't need the fancier versions, we'll make sure to link to the full series of these knives in the description. Next, we have the Prometheus Designworks STS-B. Actually, kind of similar vibes to the Maserin we just looked at. Not too far in terms of relation there, but very nicely executed knife right here, $369. Got an M390 clip point blade. It's about 3.5 inches long. Bead blasted finish. Has a really nice profile to it. And maybe a slightly older school, kind of tactical style handle going on here, but I really like it. Contoured titanium G10 inlay in green right here. Glow in the dark pivot. What's the word, Thomas?
Thumb stud.
Thumb stud.
Good job.
Glow in the dark thumb stud inlays on each side. Bolster style frame lock, milled clip, hidden lanyard post there. Really nice. I'm digging the vibes of these knives very much. Feels good. Got a little bit of thumb ramp there. Still a very utilitarian design, even if you're not going to use it quote unquote tactically, whatever that happens to mean. Nice crown spine here with a little bit of jimping. Because of that crowning, it kind of softens the edges a little bit, but you still have a little bit of extra traction right there. Floats closed really nicely, flicks open really nicely. Even like that little hint of thumb scallop there at the front for a pinch grip. Super well executed. All right, next up, we're gonna close out with a bunch more Bs. We've got a bunch of Bestechs now. This is the Togatta, really cool knife, several versions of color and inlay materials. This one, $297. The styling of these knives is very cool. It's got a very striking look, a little bit larger. We're dealing with a 3 3/4 inch blade here. Still gonna work pretty well despite its large size, I think, because despite its kind of angular look, it also does feel very good in the hand, and pretty much anyone's gonna have plenty of handle length on this particular knife. Blade steel is M390. You've got this Tanto profile with a stouter grind there at the tip for a bit more strength behind the edge there. Two-tone finish, black and satin right here. Bronze titanium handle with a tumbled finish and a green and black G10 inlay. Very cool looking. Frame lock, ball bearing pivot, I assume correctly, and I said pivot again instead of thumb stud. Dual pivots next to the dual thumb studs next to the pivot. No flipper tab, but excellent action overall. Very, very cool. Like I said, striking, effective, high-end materials, and a bunch of colors to suit. Next up, we've got a new version of the Strelit, a Ostap Hill Bestech design. This fancified version, $579. A few things go into that higher price point here. The first is a Damasteel blade, 2.19 inches of blade here, very distinctive recurve going on, but you also have Timascus inlays on both sides and a full milled Timascus clip. Very expensive material to use such large pieces as this. Even though this is a small knife, that's still a fairly big piece. So a lot of your cost is going into the materials on this particular case. As for utility, it is basically a folding punch dagger or punch karambit recurvy thing. It's a little claw, basically. Gonna work well for anything you might imagine that would work well for, in addition to be a pretty good package opener. This would actually work really well, I think, on like those really annoying clam packages you get where they're impossible to open. Very acute tip and the recurve to keep the blade from slipping out. It's gonna make short work of stuff like that. You can also see there's a lot of circles involved in this design. A lot of the shapes from the spine here, the recurve here, they're all following a series of circles. And you can actually check out Ostap Hill's Instagram page where I saw him kind of drawing out a bunch of those circles and the way they intersect. It looks really cool. Frame lock. Now the only thing I'd say that's kind of weird about this knife is it doesn't flip open as far as you might be expecting because it only goes that little tiny bit of the way. You know, if you're used to flipping open a lot of knives, it's gonna feel like it's stopping short, which of course it isn't, even though it is, but you take my meaning. But the other cool thing you can do rather than flipping, this part right here where you would be sitting your index finger above can work like a pocket deployer. You can get it to catch the hem of your pocket and work sort of like an Emerson wave so that that guy is ready to go in an instant. Next up, we've got the Vigil from Bestech, $297. Same kind of playbook, high-end materials here, heavily milled titanium and an M390 blade, 3 1/4 inches long, straight back profile, with just a hint of belly to that blade itself. Kind of very kind of angular, fast momentum to its aesthetic. I really like the contrasting colors offered on this particular one, but they do offer several different color variations. The blue works well with the gold. Really like that big backspacer there. That's also going to work as a attachment point if you like. Striking milled pocket clip. Just kind of a high-tech feel overall, but still, again, built effectively, or built for effective use, I should say. M390, ball bearings, frame lock, flipper, everything you want. Now, if you want that kind of high style thing, but you don't have that kind of scratch, check out some new versions of the Kombou Kasta from Bestech. Previously available with titanium and still available with titanium, these new versions feature 2 colors of G10, the black and red, with the red inlay here. I think looks exceptionally good. Those are paired with a 154 cm blade with this kind of modified cleaver shape here. Comes in about $129 right now. The shape is really cool. Thomas over there might even think of calling that a reverse Tonto if he likes.
I might.
I think that's what we have on the website too. So I'll begrudgingly give him that. But it works really well with the handle shape here. Ball bearing pivot, liner lock in this case, and a couple of different opening options with the flipper tab in addition to the thumb cutout. Since there's no frame lock here on the back to get in the way of pressure from your fingers while you go to open it, it's gonna be real easy to do things like the middle finger flick, which I keep botching, or just a standard thumb open. Since you're dealing with the liner lock there, it works very effectively. Or you can just do the standard flipper as well. Another knife with a lot of style, lower price tag at least, and still a lot of hard working DNA. All right, next up we have another Bestech. This is the Syntax, a Todd knife and tool design. 2 versions. We have a clip point shape, which I like, and the reverse Tonto.
Could be.
It's a modified sheep's clip shape.
Reversed.
Anything but reverse Tonto. Two cool blade shapes here. Several micartas and G10 inlay or scale options for either. Interestingly, all of the clip point blades are priced at $99 and come with 154 cm steel. The other blade shape that shall not be mentioned comes with 14C28N Sandvik Swedish steel for considerably less, about $47.90. So in terms of the bargain between the two, this one's definitely a higher value, but if you like the clip point shape, you're dealing with that higher price in either case. But anyway, the rest of the knife, we're dealing with a liner lock construction with ball bearings in the pivot. We've got a folded deep carry pocket clip, which is reversible. We've got ball bearings in the pivot, and we've got great flipping action in any case. Nice little detailing here on the liner lock where you would press to release. Got a little milled out pocket, and they've matched that on the front side, even though that's not functional, it's just for good looks. And it does in fact look quite good. We've also got a almost full spine length fuller on this particular clip point shape, which will allow you to kind of two-hand open it a little more easily. Not quite gonna give you a thumb open capability unless you have really narrow fingers. As you can see, I'm fumbling with it here because it's real close to the handle itself, but it has a nice look in any case, especially when that blade is open. Blade length on these, about 2.85, thereabouts. Nice shape, full or high flat grind on both of these, so you've got that good cross section between toughness and slicing capability on a knife of this thickness or a blade of this thickness in any case. But use that clip point if you need a little more piercing capability, or the other blade shape for more of a quote-unquote utility style knife, maybe a little more tip surface work with this one. And last but not least, we have the Titan flipper, kind of cleverly named, or tongue-in-cheekly named, I should say, for Avengers fans out there dealing with Thanos, the villain, the Mad Titan. He had a weapon in the movies that was a very similar shape to this. $63 for this version, and I think all of the versions right now. We've got that translucent Jade G10 with a black stonewash, slight black stonewash on the Tonto shape here, D2 tool steel. That Tonto has got a very aggressive change in angle here, right out towards the tip. Not super chiselly, however, there, because you still do have a decent amount or a recognizable amount of belly. It's going to work for those scraping tasks and chiselly things, just not a straight up type of chisel with a straight edge, but it's still quite nice. High flat grind, decently slicey profile overall, deep carry pocket clip. And on the back here, you can see the black liners on the inside of that knife because we have a liner on just this backside, not on the front. You've got that inset liner lock. Very neat profile when closed. The blade almost completely disappears. Flipper tab, nice flipping. Very, very cool. Nice little thing, a little bit different from standard stuff you might be carrying, but you're still gonna get a lot of utility out of it. All right, that's all I have got to show you this week. Make sure to let me know your favorites down in the comments, and to get your hands on any of them, links in the description. That'll take you over to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because if you're gonna buy one of these knives, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next ones. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing out. See you next time.
Reverse Thanos.